Why does all life ultimately lead to death? This is a question that everyone knows but no one truly comprehends, a somber echo resonating through billions of years of evolution, from the first single-celled organisms to the brilliant galactic civilizations. In truth, it is not only life but also the Earth, our verdant temporary abode, and the entire vast universe that operate according to an inexorable trend towards unavoidable decline. This is a fundamental law, a harsh sentence etched deeply into the fabric of reality, a principle that no force, whether divine or advanced technology, can alter. Imagine we are journeying backwards through time, not by physical means but through the intellect of humankind, returning to the moment when consciousness began to sprout in complex entities. Approximately 500 million years ago, in a distant galaxy named M742, a resplendent spiral celestial body situated at the observable edge, there existed a being with awareness far surpassing our understanding. This being, perhaps the outcome of millions of eons of evolution beyond our imagination, confronted the captain of an interstellar spacecraft, an entity that had witnessed the formation and collapse of countless worlds. In the profound silence of interstellar space, that being posed a simple yet weighty question: "Captain, what is the ultimate fate of the universe?" The response echoed in the cold metallic cockpit, not through sound but via direct transmission into the mind: decay. Decay. What is this concept? It is a word, an outcome, yet its essence is extraordinarily powerful, possessing the strength to shape everything that exists, though it eludes easy grasp, slipping away from rigid definitions, lurking in every minutest change. To comprehend this sentence, we must return to the origins of physics, to the era when humanity first laid the foundations for understanding energy. In the early 19th century, brilliant minds such as Sadi Carnot, and later Rudolf Clausius, discovered that energy is the absolute driving force operating the world. They achieved resounding success in developing the law of conservation of energy, the first law of thermodynamics, affirming that in a closed system, the total energy remains constant. Energy does not spontaneously arise or vanish, it merely transforms from one form to another. This was a grand liberation, a guarantee that no mysterious force was secretly draining our resources. However, a thorny issue persisted, a cruel truth concealed within the seemingly perfect process of energy transformation. No matter how many methods scientists tried, no matter how sophisticated the technology, energy could never be transformed with 100% efficiency. Invariably, a certain portion of energy was lost in the conversion process, not vanishing from the universe, but transforming into an unusable form, dispersed, disorganized energy incapable of performing useful work. This lost and unusable portion, which physicists perceived as a depletion of potential work, was later named decay, or more precisely, the increase in entropy. Ultimately, this concept was systematized rigorously and became the second law of thermodynamics, one of the most unshakable laws of nature. Every energy transformation process produces decay. In the most intuitive and comprehensible terms, decay can be viewed as entropy, or the measure of disorder and energy dispersion in a system. According to the second law, all things, every system in the universe, naturally progresses towards a state of maximum entropy, a state of thermal equilibrium where all energy is evenly dispersed, with no differences in temperature, pressure, or density capable of generating work. This is the vision of absolute stagnation, a silent and frigid universe. This explains everything around us with a cold logic. Why does an automobile left outdoors deteriorate more readily, rusting faster than one regularly maintained? It is because erosion and oxidation are processes that increase entropy. Why does a house, if not cleaned, become increasingly dirty, with dust accumulating and everything turning chaotic? Because order requires energy to sustain, whereas disorder is the natural state. And why do the most beautiful things in the world age and fade? Grand architectural structures weather away, vibrant flowers wilt, stars consume their fuel to shine, all are testaments to entropy. Clouds drift with the wind, jade fades under the influence of time and environment. The reason is simple and universal: to maintain a state of beauty, order, or any condition with concentrated and highly organized energy, a continuous influx of energy is needed to counteract the natural tendency towards disorder. Without this energy, order and beauty cannot endure forever. A state of freshness, a moment of perfection, cannot persist eternally. Life, the most complex entity we know, operates similarly, but with far greater drama. From the instant a living being, whether a single-celled bacterium or an elephant, is born, its process of entropy increase commences. The living body is an extraordinary biological machine, a highly organized structure maintained by continuously creating internal order. The food, oxygen, and energy we absorb are the powerful forces we employ to resist the ceaseless rise of entropy. We live by perpetually borrowing ordered energy from the environment, from sunlight through plants, or from other organisms, and using it to build, repair, and sustain complex cellular structures, expelling chaotic waste into the surrounding environment. In other words, from beginning to end, the life of every organism is an unceasing battle, a race against death, against disorder. We can only slow the rate of entropy increase through metabolism and homeostasis, not halt it entirely. When entropy accumulation within the body reaches a critical threshold, when the biological system's capacity to resist breakdown and disorder exceeds its recovery ability, life ceases. Self-repair mechanisms fail, chemical reactions become disorganized, and the body returns to thermal equilibrium with the environment. We decompose. The only aspect each individual can control, albeit minimally, is the pace of this process, through lifestyle, nutrition, and even genetics. The same principle, on a vastly larger scale, applies to the entirety of human civilization. From the first time our distant ancestors, the upright apes, learned to control fire, and act creating local order by harnessing stored chemical energy in wood, to the rapid development of the information technology and nuclear energy era today, human society is not guaranteed to become increasingly advanced or civilized in a straight line. On the contrary, like everything else in the universe, humanity and its achievements will ultimately veer towards monotony and disorder without continuous and ever greater energy intervention. High-technology inventions, the exploitation of fossil fuels, renewable energy, or even future nuclear fusion energy, are essentially more sophisticated methods to curb entropy accumulation within our sphere of influence. We build supercomputers to process information, creating informational order. We construct cities resilient to disasters, creating physical order, but all these efforts demand enormous energy expenditure. The energy required to maintain stable development and order in the civilized world is immense, and this always comes at a cost, the cost of displacing entropy into our surrounding environment in the form of pollution, greenhouse gas emissions, depletion of non-renewable resources, and accelerating species extinction rates, as per the latest ecological data from reports by the International Union for Conservation of Nature. We are utilizing ordered energy, for example, fossil fuels stored over millions of years, to create temporary societal order, but simultaneously amplifying disorder at the planetary and atmospheric levels. Physicists specializing in energy have demonstrated to us that entropy can never be entirely eliminated from the universe. We can only create local areas of order, temporary oases of structure and information, such as a living cell, a city, or a galaxy, but the price is the transfer and increase of entropy elsewhere. The energy balance is always preserved, only the distribution changes. Since scientists discovered the second law, it has been clear that biological immortality or physical eternity is a dream contrary to nature's most fundamental laws. Everything inevitably trends towards greater disorder. The evolution of the universe, commencing from the Big Bang approximately 13.8 billion years ago, a singular point of extreme heat and density, with very low entropy compared to the present, has been a process evolving towards ever greater disorder. Galaxies form from dense clouds of hydrogen and helium gas, stars are born and die, heavy elements are synthesized in stellar cores and dispersed into space through supernova explosions, a violent process of energy and matter dispersion, all steps in the journey towards thermal equilibrium. The universe is evolving towards increasing disorder, and it seems some events have been preordained along this flow. From the most microscopic life forms, with life cycles of mere hours, to plankton with brief existences, or colossal beings like the bristlecone pine trees that can endure for thousands of years, each entity has a temporal and structural limit. On the celestial scale, the lifespan of our Sun, a gigantic nuclear fusion reactor, is estimated at about 10 billion years. Presently, it is approximately 4.6 billion years old, meaning we are midway through its path, and its future transformation into a red giant, then ultimately a white dwarf, is an unavoidable process of energy decay. 100 years may be a mere blink, an insignificantly short interval relative to the universe's lifespan, but for human perception and experience, a century seems immensely long, sufficient to build and witness the collapse of empires, the complete transformation of technology and society. However, even the greatest empires, the most monumental constructions, cannot escape entropy's erosion. According to the laws of entropy, in an unimaginably distant future, perhaps billions or trillions of years hence, the universe itself will reach its heat death, a scenario termed the Big Freeze, or heat death of the universe. In this scenario, stars will gradually fade, black holes will evaporate via Hawking radiation, and fundamental particles will decay, if theories of proton decay prove correct. All matter will disperse to near indistinguishability, the universe becoming cold, dark, and homogeneous, with no energy gradients to sustain life or activity. Recent research, however, introduces intriguing alternatives. For instance, analyses of dark energy suggest the cosmological constant might be negative, potentially leading the universe to cease expansion and reverse into a big crunch within 20 to 33 billion years, collapsing back into a dense state. Yet, even in such models, entropy's inexorable rise persists, underscoring the universe's path to some form of ultimate decline. What energy governs this ceaseless increase? The answer is the universe's own energy, through its dispersion. And the ultimate philosophical question haunting cosmologists and philosophers, what lies beyond this evolving universe? Is there an outer space, with lower entropy, or absolute nothingness? Perhaps, with current perceptual and physical tools, we will never obtain a complete answer to the end, but the journey to understand this inevitable death is what propels life and intelligence to develop ceaselessly in the finite time we possess. While the universe proceeds on its grand path of decay, scientists continue tirelessly seeking methods to slow this process or harness new energy sources before heat death arrives. For example, research in quantum physics and information theory reveals profound links between information and energy, suggesting that processing and storing information has a minimum entropy bound, described by Landauer's limit, which dictates the minimal energy required to erase one bit of information. This indicates that even in the smallest computational systems, energy waste and disorder increase are unavoidable. Physicists at laboratories like the European Organization for Nuclear Research or Fermilab strive to uncover new fundamental particles and interactions, not only for pure knowledge but in hope of finding loopholes or undiscovered physical laws permitting more efficient energy management, even if only locally and temporarily. Recent advancements in quantum coherence, such as extending transmon qubit coherence to milliseconds or developing rare earth crystals that boost quantum coherence to tens of milliseconds, offer glimpses into sustaining ordered quantum states longer, potentially revolutionizing quantum computing and energy efficiency. In condensed matter physics, recent developments provide astonishing examples of how complex systems can exhibit behavior-resisting decay for short periods. Studies on exotic states of matter, like high-temperature superconductors or complex quantum liquids, demonstrate quantum order formation at the atomic level. For instance, researchers at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology have explored many-body quantum systems where entangled quantum states maintain coherence longer than expected, a form of quantum order, resisting environmental thermal noise. However, crucially, even these states require extreme isolation from the external environment, meaning they demand substantial energy to maintain separation and prevent external entropy intrusion. In biology, the battle against entropy is most evident in aging research. Investigators like Dr. David Sinclair's team at Harvard University focus on molecular pathways controlling deoxyribonucleic acid repair, mitochondrial function, and epigenetics. Telomeres, the protective segments at chromosome ends, are known to shorten with each cell division, a direct marker of wear and entropy increase at the genomic level. Although potential interventions like activating telomerase enzyme or therapies targeting nicotinamide 8,9 dinucleotide exist, they merely aim to delay, to slow biological aging, that is, to retard the body's entropy rise, rather than reverse it wholly. More recently, studies on cellular reprogramming using Yamanaka factors have shown the ability to rewind the biological clock of mature cells, with predictions from Dr. Sinclair suggesting age-reversing pills could emerge by 2035. Yet, safe and effective application to entire living organisms remains a major challenge, balancing new order creation against risks of uncontrolled disorder, such as cancer. In cosmology, the latest observations from the James Webb Space Telescope continue providing detailed data on early galaxy formation, confirming the standard cosmological model where structure formation results from initial density fluctuations in a highly uniform post-Big Bang state. The light beams captured by the James Webb Space Telescope, traveling across billions of years, are visual evidence of entropy's rise. Radiation energy from those distant stars ultimately disperses upon absorption at Earth, contributing minutely to global disorder. Discoveries include surprisingly mature spiral galaxies like Alexander forming just 1.5 billion years after the Big Bang, supermassive black holes feasting in the infant universe, and superheated star factories indicating rapid galactic growth in the cosmos's youth. Even in artificial intelligence, a field seemingly reliant on creating order and information, the second law reigns. Vast deep learning models like large language models require colossal electrical power for training, consuming gigawatt-hours and generating significant heat and carbon emissions. Training a model like generative pre-trained Transformer 4 is estimated to produce carbon emissions equivalent to hundreds of transatlantic flights, with daily operations of tools like Chat generative pre-trained Transformer potentially using around 39.98 million kilowatt-hours, enough to charge 8 million telephones. This vividly illustrates that creating complex, informational order always accompanies amplification of physical and thermodynamic disorder in the surrounding environment. We exchange a small portion of the universe's entropy, fossil fuels, electrical power, for temporary, useful, informational order. As we gaze further, to black holes' horizons, regions of space-time where gravity is so intense nothing escapes, we confront an entropy paradox. Stephen Hawking demonstrated that black holes emit thermal radiation, Hawking radiation, albeit slowly, and thus they will gradually evaporate. This is an entropy-increasing process, as tightly compressed matter and energy in a small volume disperses back into thermal radiation post-evaporation. In the distant future, when supermassive black holes at galactic centers also evaporate, leaving only a dilute soup of fundamental particles and extremely cold thermal radiation, that will approach the universe's heat death. So, where do we stand in this flow? We, beings capable of perceiving decay, seem to live in a privileged cosmic moment, a phase between the Big Bang and heat death, when sufficient concentrated energy, like solar power and fossil sources, exists to sustain complexity. But this complexity is ephemeral. The deepest understanding of this decay lies not only in physics but in existential philosophy. If everything progresses towards disorder, what meaning do our efforts, love, creativity, science hold? Science replies that meaning resides not in eternal permanence but in the process of resisting disorder during our existence. Life is a temporary rebellion, a candle lit amid the cosmic night. Its beauty lies in the drama of the struggle against disintegration. And that is why the being in galaxy M742 received a single-word answer: decay. It is reality's non-negotiable truth. Everything has its lifespan, determined by the rate at which it consumes ordered energy to maintain structure against entropy's rise. Even if we could extend an individual's lifespan to thousands of years by slowing biological aging, a phenomenal achievement, the planets where the stars' gradual energy decline, and ultimately the universe's end await. Our task, as conscious beings aware of this law, is not to reverse it, for that is impossible, but to maximize our relatively brief, relatively ordered interval to understand, experience, and create the most radiant local orders possible before the inevitable flow sweeps all into final thermal equilibrium.